Hello, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll. I was just looking at one of my garden posts called Garden Turnover, and it was, I think, June the 15th, and there had been a change in the garden, and here it is, July the 19th. And there has definitely been another change in the garden. The pretty Laura tall phlox, garden phlox, is blooming everywhere. My Texas star hardy hibiscus is full of bloom. And we just got an inch of rain last night. Look at all this pretty Laura tall phlox. Although some of it has laid down from the rain, but some of it will pick back up, and I'll probably have to trim some of it off that just laid out too much. But I just wanted to show you how beautiful it is. I also noticed that the butterfly plant is also I think this is actually called butterfly weed, but it is also filling out with its pretty orange blooms. The beautiful white impatiens are still going strong, even though I lost several plants, like some of my calabachoa, most of my calabachoa, most or all of my bacopa. Those things that I just have a struggle keeping, I didn't make it again, so I don't know how to save those through the whole season, but I want to learn because they're so beautiful, but so are these, so I'm going to just enjoy the beauty that is here today. Oh, I see a pretty orange hibiscus. The annual hibiscus is blooming this morning. I'm sure a lot of the blooms will open up just because they got rain. They'll be singing in the rain. And so am I. I just love it when we get rain. It gives me some time to do something else. It's just so much better than any watering I could do for the garden. This little girl is just about to get all covered up. And this impatient is looking great. I'm so glad the snails and roly-polies didn't get all of my impatiens. And this little pot is filled out nicely. But as you know, if you've been looking, I lost so many. I had to redo some of these pots. I don't even know how many times. 2 to 4 times some of these pots had to be redone. This is one of them, which has no impatiens in it now. But it still looks gorgeous with this beautiful coleus and the pretty trailing vinca or periwinkle. This little coleus has really taken off, and this is where I had that beautiful purple calabachoa underneath it, and I thought it would just show off so pretty with the purple veining in this coleus. But instead, since it died out, I put some purple heart there, and this little periwinkle is doing great. Right beside it there are some more impatiens that did make it. So more of the garden turnover for July. There's lots of tall garden phlox. You can always count on it to open sometime in July, right around the 4th of July. And it just has, and look at this little container garden and how the coleus has filled out so great. It's looking so good. And I actually took clippings from this and put in other spots in the garden. And along with the Laura tall phlox, or any of the tall phlox that open in the summertime in July, also what opens up and that I always look forward to are the crepe myrtles when they begin to bloom in July. Not a lot of my gladiolas are in bloom yet, but they also begin to bloom usually the end of June or sometime in July. I have a darker garden phlox right here that a friend of mine gave me, but I've also tried some other garden phlox before, and they seem to all, for me, want to go back to this it's called Laura phlox, this pale kind of purple with a pink eye. It's very pretty and I love it, but actually I would like to have a lot of different colors of it. But this is still beautiful. And look, also the grasses are beginning to seed out, which is reminiscent of fall. So fall may come early. Wouldn't that be great? Today I'm just rejoicing that we have a day cooler, that I can get out without just sweat pouring. And I know if I was out here very long, it would still be that way. But it is so nice today compared to how it has been being. And I'm sure it will probably go back to being. There are still some of the daylilies in bloom in the garden. Quite a few actually are still going strong. But definitely a turnover from the June turnover that we had, and it's just barely a month later. And oh, here I'm seeing that another one of my hibiscus, this is another hardy hibiscus that's in bloom. These are the first blooms this season for it. This is another one of my crepe myrtles that's blooming. I'm so surprised that they are blooming because I wasn't sure if they would, because they had to be cut down to the ground practically. There was a little bit growing of them right at the base, and they had to come back from there. And this one is almost as tall actually now as it was last year. So that was a surprise for me, and a pleasant surprise. So good to have, I know I've already said, but so good to have the coneflowers back in the garden. I somehow lost those out at one time. But I thought I would just come over here a little bit closer to these hibiscus, because I think from where I was it was a little bit shaky. But let's get over here where you can see their beauty this morning, and you can see there's going to be several more to bloom out. They only last a day, but they're so beautiful. And another one, like a daylily, another one will usually come on the next day. So right now the garden is full of pretty bloom. And also after that rain, I went ahead and clipped some little starts and put in various places. This is one place where I put a few little starts. I thought that purslane moss would fill this all out, but it just wasn't filling it out, even though it is beautiful when it does bloom. So I think these will help fill it out, and we'll still have the pretty purslane moss in there, and hopefully it'll just look great. Still have some of the clematis in bloom. This is, of course, the Princess Diana, and I still also have a lot of the garden phlox out here in this area. I just kind of put it all over too because I just really like it. I love it. Of course, I'm thinking that can also, one day I maybe want to thin some of this out, and there's going to be me another deluxe job to do it, but it's so pretty right now. I just wanted you to see it all out in the garden, blooming everywhere. Some of the zinnias are beginning to fill out too and look great. Most of my clematis or clematis from this side have gone away, but there are these right at the bottom that still look great. But there's a few right at the top, but most of the ones in the center have gone ahead and put on their little seed head. I think I can show you a Mexican flame vine bloom here too. And I still have some of the tall lilies that are in bloom, although a lot of them have already, their bloom has already spent on them. Dahlias are another July flower for me this year, depending on when I finally get them in usually, but they're looking great right now in the garden. And I did have to spray one more time for cucumber beetles. They will absolutely take these little plants out. And I think this one, if I can find out where it, well, I can't tell on it. It did have a big old gash taken out around the rim from, I'm not sure if it was those, but I did see one on another bloom, and so I'm suspecting that it was. So I went ahead and sprayed for them again. I read or heard that if you have one cucumber beetle, you have a problem. So that means that if you have one, you're going to have bukus of them. The last time I see here, my mums are beginning to bloom, and I was going to say, last year my mums were taken out by cucumber beetles, just taken completely out. Also just noticed the sun is up higher or something, and I was more in the sun, not in a shade, and it is getting hot. So I hope these little starts that I put in, I hope they will make it. Right now they seem to be doing great, but that heat can go ahead and destroy them when they're just sitting there without a root. this one had that pretty trailing vinca, and I don't know why. Usually it is a wonderful plant for our Oklahoma heat to survive in, but it didn't in this particular spot, so I added these little clippings, and hopefully it will fill it out and look good, but that heat could take it out too. But I'm hoping that does not happen. Look at this pretty rose this morning. And then just right on down the fence row, look at this. This is another one of my hardy hibiscus. This is called Ruffled Carolina hibiscus. I put a little orangey copper coleus in with this pot, and I think it just gives it a little pizzazz that it was needing, so hopefully it will make it there. And look how this little fan flower is filling out. Oh my, I thought I would lose it in the beginning, and then I thought, well, maybe I won't lose it, and then it began to bloom for me, so it's just doing wonderful compared to how it started out. And this is all I have left of the little yellow and white calabachoa. This is the pretty pink one. Beautiful bud, again not in bloom, so we'll see what will happen with this. Right now it's looking good. I love this little calabachoa, but I don't know how much longer I'll have it either. I did go ahead and put some little clippings in with this too, because my trailing periwinkle here did not do well either. I just really don't know why. I've got to figure out why, because maybe that is part of the reason that the calabachoa and the bacopa, here's all I have left of the bacopa, and the rest of it is gone. And as you can see, this calabachoa is not doing well there either. So, but so far it is doing well around the edges, and so I'm still giving it hope. Not only did I get the coneflower going back again in the garden, the regular purple, I also have some of this red, and I have some yellow and some orange. Not a lot, but they could proliferate, I hope. And look at this beautiful, this is a, whoo, that was a snake, sorry. But yeah, that's how I feel about snakes. But anyways, he's gone away for right now. But this is a phenol. This is a phenol. Isn't that beautiful? And we still have some pretty daylilies blooming over here on this fence row. And there's our rain gauge with our 1 inch of rain. Is that so wonderful? And we have chances of getting more, so I'm hoping, oh, I wish we would get it every single day we have a chance to get it. I wish we would get rain. This is that pretty Victorian blue salvia. The bat flower is blooming this morning prettily in this little pot. The sweet pea vine has also got some pretty blooms on it after our rain. And the summer allium is blooming. Look at this lovely lily. And I also noticed that I have some black-eyed Susan vine in bloom. This is another new bloom for this season. And I thought I was going to actually lose this, but look how it's grown. I know it's still tiny, but it's really grown a lot since I showed it to you last. I also noticed that these little angelonias are beginning to fill out quite a bit. It's really helped this pot to look great. And I have another gladiola that's trying to open up here. And more of the tall Phlox. It's just truly blooming all over the garden right now. And I wanted to show you that because none of that was blooming in June. The last time I told you the garden had a turnover. So it has certainly turned over again, and the change of the bloom that's in the garden. Not so much the weather. It's still hot, even though we did have a good rain and it cooled things down a bit, but it's hot out today. It won't be long before the sedum are in bloom. They're beginning to bud out now. So that gets you pretty much all the way around the garden today. Thank you for coming on A Garden's Grow with me. And I hope you're enjoying your gardens this summer. And I know summer can be a hard time to enjoy the garden, even though there's lots of bloom and lots of beauty. Lots of snakes. Had to throw that one in. But there's also so much heat. That the heat is what makes summer the hardest, one of the hardest seasons in the garden. Even though there's so much beauty in the garden in the summer, that heat just can sometimes overpower the beauty. I just noticed today that this little white tall garden phlox is also blooming. Look, it looks so similar to this is a geranium, and it looks really similar to the geraniums. Of course, it's on a taller stem, and hopefully it will bush out and make just a little grouping of these instead of just one. But that's exciting for a start. This is the first one that bloomed. I did have one several years ago, but it didn't live, so I'm hoping this one will live and come back in the garden over and over again. Also noticed that this little one that I have for my friend Oma it's certainly not coming to its own yet, but that little root has come into its own and has put up you can tell how healthy and how standing at attention, and it's ready to grow now, and it looks pretty. I have several of my little homely Homer tomatoes. None have gotten red yet or ready to eat, but it's exciting for me just to have some at all, and I do hope they will be edible before frost. Look at this beautiful daylily, and look all around it. You can see the empty stalks where they bloomed all summer long, but this is the last one. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel.